I'd like to tell you a story of two brothers. Their mother was Royal Navy and their father was Royal Air Force. They had a very good childhood. They both loved and cared for by their parents, and they were brought up to respect and show interest in other people's cultures and beliefs. Because of their father's job, they moved around a lot, and in doing so lived in many different countries such as Germany, Malaysia, Cyprus. Their lives were always full of interest. There was always something new to see wherever they were based. The two were more than just brothers. They were also great friends. After the eldest brother's 16th birthday, he joined the Royal Air Force. Some 6 years later, David followed him. Later, David left the Royal Air Force and began working for the United Nations in a region called the Balkans. A terrible conflict had taken place there. David began working with refugees, helping the displaced back to their homes. This was extremely dangerous, as the homes had often to be cleared of bombs and booby traps. For the first time, friends and family saw a real enthusiasm and sense of purpose in David. Through helping others, he had found his role, his calling in life. David went to many far-flung countries, helping his fellow man no matter his race, religion, politics. His only objective was to help those in need. At the beginning of March 2013, David again went into the field, this time Syria. He joined an aid agency called ACTED, an organization that helped deliver aid and support to the most vulnerable people all over the world. David's first stop was Turkey, where he got trained and briefed. What was to follow was the darkest of days. It was the 11th of March 2013. David and his colleague Federico were traveling to a refugee camp near Aleppo. Their convoy was ambushed, and David and Federico were dragged at gunpoint from their vehicle, beaten, put into another vehicle, and driven off at high speed. Back in the UK, I received a phone call telling me of David's kidnapping. I had to tell our parents, his wife, his daughter, our family, that my brother David had been taken. I thought that was the worst day of my life. I was wrong. David knew that sometimes terrible things happen to humanitarian workers. We had discussed this at length, plotting escape plans for every type of scenario, from being eaten alive by deadly animals to kidnap. ACTED and our government were doing all they could to get information. We received the very highest support from the government. Their dedication to getting my brother home was steadfast. I was involved in every decision. We had received no information until we found out that some of the hostages from different countries held with my brother had been ransomed and released. The information from the returned hostages contained good news and bad. We now knew the identity of the hostage takers. The group that kidnapped my brother was called ISIS, also known as the Islamic State of Daesh. ISIS is a terrorist organization, and terrorists are people of any race, any religion, who use hate, fear, and violence to control and manipulate people. David was, as I predicted, doing everything I said he would in the first interviews with the police. He would get his colleagues up and keeping fit. He invented games, started group discussions, told stories. Everything he could to keep the spirits of the group up. He distracted the brutal attention of the guards onto himself. He intervened in arguments and often paid the price from those guards. You may be wondering why a ransom was not paid for David, like other hostages who had been released. The UK government has a strict no engagement policy when it comes to paying terrorist ransoms. Terrorists use ransoms to raise funds, and this only encourages more kidnappings. David had said on many occasions that if we ever paid even £1 for his release, we would never see him again. Our family motto throughout the 18 months of David's captivity was to hope for the best but prepare for the worst. However, we could not be prepared for what was to come. Jim Foley was an American journalist who was being held hostage with David. He was murdered by ISIS in a video that's played out for the world to see on the 2nd of September 2014. About 10 at night, I received again a phone call from my team that a video of the American Steven Sotloff had been released. Like David and Jim, Steven was a hostage being held by ISIS. The video showed him being brutally murdered. In the background of Steven's murder, dressed in an orange overall, was paraded my brother. He was then threatened by Mohammed Emwazi, also known as Jihadi John. My brother was next to die. The night of 13th September 2014, the night my family were torn apart. I had moved most of my family to my home in Dundee. We had all gone to our beds. I received a phone call from my team leader in London. David was no longer with us. I had to gather my family together and tell them their son, their father, husband, was no longer with us. I took my mother's hands and told her that her son could no longer be hurt anymore. His barbaric death was plastered over the papers, the internet and television. It was impossible to get away from it. That was truly the worst night of my life. You might expect me to make out that my brother was a perfect man, had morals and dignity of ordinary men. My brother, like myself, like all people, made mistakes. However, his heart was good. I know that he loved me, and I him. Still do. He went into areas of danger to help people, whatever their religion, politics, colour, culture. He was a true hero. And those humanitarian workers like him are all our modern day heroes. So why am I here? Am I here to point a finger of blame at a people or religion? Am I here in anger or hatred? The answer to these questions is no. Simply, I detest what the terrorists and extremists of all types are trying to do to the country that my family and I have served and are proud of serving. So now I go to talk of unity, tolerance, and understanding. I go to fight the hate, the fear, and discord that the terrorists and extremists of all types seek to sow in our communities. ISIS in particular are trying to incite hate and hate crime between the Muslim and non-Muslim people. They use the peaceful religion of Islam as an excuse to commit atrocities that are truly beyond belief. ISIS kill far more Muslim people than they have ever done non-Muslim. They are trying to destabilize Arabic and Islamic countries so they can increase the power and territory they hold. They are not Muslim, and they do not represent Islam. In this country of ours, we have close to 270 different nationalities, practicing some 170 different faiths. We want to be able to practice whatever religion we choose, free from persecution. We want to live in peace. Terrorists and extremists seek to destroy our way of life. They want to turn community against community. They want people to commit hate crimes. They want to tell us that some people don't belong here because that makes people scared and suspicious. The trouble is that it is working. There has been an increase in all kinds of intolerance. So what can we do? It is by talking to each other that we can overcome the fear the extremists seek to sow. We are lucky enough to live in a multicultural, multi-faith society. But the extremists only want us to see each other's differences, not what we have in common. By reaching out and talking to someone from a different faith, a different background, We can break down these walls the extremists seek to build. I wanted to quote from the Quran for a TV broadcast I was recording, but wanted to make sure that I was not going to misquote. I was introduced to a London-based imam called Shanawaz to help me. During those few hours, a friendship had begun. Both of us are learning so much from each other. We have an understanding that we can ask questions of one another without causing offence. Our backgrounds and histories are very different, and under normal circumstances we would never have met. I truly believe that our friendship and the ones like it can do more to fight against the hatred and fear than bombs and bullets. If each and every one of us can open our minds, our hearts, our arms to other communities we do not understand, then we can, as a nation, only grow better. Our communities grow closer, and our barriers against hate and intolerance grow stronger. One of the most popular questions is, why do I not hate? My answer to them is, if I hate the people who killed my brother, they win. I will not let hatred into my life. The willingness to learn from one another makes me proud, makes me filled with hope of what we can achieve. Ignorance and prejudice are the handmaidens of propaganda. Our mission, therefore, is to confront ignorance with knowledge, bigotry with tolerance, and isolation with the outstretched hand of generosity.